Hey everyone, Andrea here. Welcome to Karchermakes, and today we are talking about all the things I made in 2024 and all the things I want to make in 2025. So starting with all the things I made in 2024. I'll be popping the pictures in here so that you can see some of the finished objects. And if you want any sort of in-depth information about these projects, you can take a look at the Knitting and Such podcast playlist, which I'll link below. And then also I will have links to the Ravelry pages below so that you can see what these patterns really are all about. I'm going to start with my favorite category, knitting. And I'm also going to start with my favorite project type, which is socks. So this year I kind of had a goal, a very loose goal, that I wanted to make one pair of socks a month. And that didn't happen, and it's okay. We don't always achieve our goals. It's not the end of the world when that happens. We reset, we refresh, and we try again. So this year I managed to complete 8 pairs of socks. One of those were baby socks. I'm still counting them as a sock project though. So for sweaters, I finished 2 sweaters this year. One maybe wasn't my favorite project ever. That was the Weekender by Andrea Mowry. And again, nothing wrong with that pattern. It was just not the best choice for what I look for in a sweater as far as fit, as far as aesthetic. I would maybe make that project again. I would make some changes to it, but as it stands, that wasn't one of my favorite projects. However, the other sweater that I made probably is at the top of all of my projects for the favorite project of the year. And maybe it's recency bias, but I just finished it last month, and it's the End Times Cardigan. And if you missed it, there's an entire video dedicated to that. I will link it below for you to take a look, but it's pretty epic if I must say so myself. For shawls, I did finish 2 shawls this year. One was 2023's. I can't say last year anymore. We are in 2025. Was 2023's Geo Gradient shawl. It's still not blocked. It still needs some ends woven in. I'm considering it done. And then I also finished this one, which is the Go-Go Dynamo shawl using Frogget yarns. And I would probably rank that as my second favorite project. I really love how that turned out. I used a lot of time this year to make some smaller projects, and with that came 4 hats that I knit. 3 of those were for charity. One was the Dustlin hat by Stephen West, which was a phenomenal pattern. I love the way it fits, and I love the way it looks with a pom-pom on top. And then I also made 2 mystery gnomes. They're up there with our other New Me friends from 2023. I made 1 stuffed pumpkin, and I made 3 baubles for the Christmas tree, and I really want to make more of those. And then I was influenced by the emotional support chicken. I had to make one of those. So that was done, and it was gifted to a friend of mine from work. One thing that I didn't do a lot of this year that I want to improve on for the coming year, this year, 2025, is crochet. So I only made 2 crochet projects this year. They were both relatively small. One is the scrap basket that was making the rounds, and the FOMO got to me. And then the other was a crocheted tote, which was a gift for my boyfriend's daughter for her birthday. I normally don't make things for other people, and I guess this year was a good year for that, with the charity making, the gifts for people at work, as well as the birthday gift for her. I was able to complete a few weaving projects. This is the first full year that I've had the floor loom, and I finished a set of towels. I finished a set of placemats, and I actually have a set of towels that's ready to come off the loom, like as we speak. It's just a matter of doing it and getting them sewn. And again, we're going to talk more a little bit about that in the goals section. Speaking of sewing, I got a new sewing machine this past year, and I really got that to work on weaving projects. But a nice little side effect is that I learned how to make knitting project bags. So I did complete 2 of those. And I also completed a table runner, which I don't think I talked about on here at all. It was like a little practice project for me. And then I also made 2 baby quilts that went to another coworker who recently had a baby. So like I mentioned, out of all those projects, probably the End Times Cardigan is my favorite. And again, that might be a little bit of recency bias, but I really like how that turned out. I'm very happy with that make. In terms of least favorite, I kind of go back to the weekender sweater. It was a lot of poor choices on my part, and from that, we learn from our mistakes. I learn from my mistakes. It's the best way for me to learn is to screw something up. And, you know, moving forward, I know in terms of sweaters especially, I know now what I like, what I don't like, fit, ease, length of sleeve. I now know what I like about that and what I don't like about that, and I can now move forward and make my projects better. So let's talk about 2025 goals now. So I kind of bucketize these into a couple different sections. So the first section is community, what I'm calling community. And really, that is this: me connecting with other makers, other knitters, spinners, weavers, crocheters, sewers, quilters, really connecting with other people, building those relationships, and really learning from one another. I would really like to get to a point where I can participate in some sort of like knit night, crochet night, making night, even if it means me having to create that in my own local community. But I really want to get to a point where that then becomes part of my regular routine of making. So like I mentioned, YouTube is a big part of my engagement with the making community, and you're here, you're watching this, and I appreciate that. You are helping me build this relationship with other makers, and I truly appreciate that you are here. And you know, if you subscribe, it's free. All that does is it makes the new videos pop into your subscription feed on the application. That's it. So some of my goals around this channel are fairly simple ones, honestly. I want to get better at editing. That includes lighting, and I feel like that's a constant struggle for anybody who makes videos, is just dealing with, you know, lighting and kind of the technicalities of making the video, producing the video. But I also want to be more consistent in my uploads. I would really like to try to do a minimum of 2 videos a month, and I would love to do a video every week. I just don't know what that's going to look like in terms of my schedule, in terms of how long it takes me to make things, because unfortunately I am a slow maker, and the things that I can make fast, which are pretty much vanilla socks, that's the fastest thing I know how to make, I'm not sure that's interesting enough to hold folks' attention, right? Like, who needs to look at like 12 pairs of vanilla socks every month? It's fine. So I really want to work on bringing some quality content to this channel, content that you want to see. So if there's ideas that you have, or if there's specific things that you really are looking for out of a making YouTube channel, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'm always open to that feedback. So the next kind of bucket of goal that I have is really around, I guess we can call it like administration or organization. So one thing that I'm really bad about is keeping my Ravelry pages up to date. So when I went to go look to see like, oh, let me go sort my finished objects by the year 2024 to see what I've done, I realized that half of them weren't up to date and the other half were missing. So I really want to get better at making that part of my making routine. So just like you're picking out yarn and you're casting on and then you're making the project and then you're binding off, I want to make updating Ravelry a part of that routine. So maybe when I'm finished casting on, I'll go make the project page so that I know that it's there. And then as I post pictures to Instagram, P.S., I'm also Karchermakes on Instagram if you'd like to follow me there, then that just becomes a natural, organic part of my making process. And in doing that, it'll also help me keep my data up to date, and then when next year rolls around, I'll easily be able to pull all the great things that I've made this year. The next bucket is learning. I am somebody who constantly wants to learn new things, and that's really how I got into this rabbit hole that you are watching. It really started with one craft and then just spiraled, and the snowball rolled down the hill, and it just built momentum as it went. And it really became a rabbit hole of many other things. So for me, I've accepted, I really have the self-awareness to know that this is who I am, and I've accepted that part of me and my personality. And what I really want to do is embrace it more and really look for new things to learn. And that's really kind of the beauty of craft, regardless of which one we talk about, right? So it could be knitting, it could be crochet, it could be weaving. There's so much to it, and there's so many different techniques, and there's so many different things you can make that it honestly becomes a constant learning cycle that helps feed that beast inside of me that just craves that constant need to make things. So I'm looking forward to learning more things this year. I would love to take some workshops at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I tried to do that in 2020, and then we all know what happened then. And then last year I was going to sign up for some classes, but unfortunately they filled up like super fast, so I wasn't able to get into them. But this might be the year. I'm gonna certainly try. I've already kind of got my calendar blocked out. They normally post the classes the first week of February, so I've already kind of got it noted in my calendar, and I'm ready, and I want to find some classes. Now, not sure yet what I'm going to pick. Probably maybe a spinning or fiber prep class. I am very much a novice spinner, and one of the things that I want to get better at with it is not necessarily the kind of literal making of the yarn. I have the skill sets to make yarn. What I'm missing is the skill set to make intentional yarn, right? So when I spin yarn today, I just let my hands do what they want to do. I let the fiber do what it wants to do, and then it comes out however it comes out. What I would like to do is, again, be more intentional about it and say, okay, I want to make yarn for socks. Let me know how I need to manipulate this fiber and spin these plies and ply these plies to make that happen. I really want to get deeper into that process. So I don't know. They usually almost always have spinning and fiber prep classes, so I'm definitely going to be looking for that. And then as far as weaving goes, the Redstone Glen, which is a fiber teaching school, I would call it maybe, very local to me. They should be listing out their New Year class schedule soon. Usually they make updates 2 or 3 times a year, and one of those updates is coming up here in January, I think, I'm assuming. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that too. There may be some weaving classes that I take as well. So another one of my goal buckets, and maybe this could be put into the community bucket, but I kind of kept it separate. It's Knitalongs. I love a knit-along. with some caveats. I like a knit along that doesn't have an incredible amount of complicated rules. Like, I have to deal with enough rules at work. I don't want to deal with it in my making life, honestly. So I like things that are more kind of easygoing, not super heavy on the rules and deadlines and specifics. And I think I found a couple that fit the bill for my needs. So the first one is Amy of Happy Little Yarn and Andrea, another Andrea, of the Cat Lady podcast. They're hosting Stitch Quest 2025, and I really feel like this is kind of a special knit along because it has like a whole adventurous story that goes along with it. And as you as a participant in this knit along, and it's, I should say make along because there's other components to it. You can absolutely participate if you do other things besides knitting. But you really become a part of the adventure. And again, there's a whole storyline that goes with it. You are a character who picks a path, and it just sounded so interesting to me that I couldn't say no. I had to do it. So I've cast on my first project for Stitch Quest 2025, and you'll be seeing that in an upcoming video. But I'll link both of their channels below. I will try to see if I can link the actual group where that's happening. And then if you want to come join us, please do so. I think it's going to be really, really fun. So another more kind of low-key Stitch along, I'll say, is being hosted by Jenny Lee Knits. She's got the Wyoming Knits, I think it's called, podcast here on YouTube. And again, I'll link it below. So she's doing a scrap along. And if you guys don't know, I kind of like scraps. I like scraps, I like minis. And the End Times Cardigan is a testament to that. So she's doing, and within this make along, there's like different categories because obviously it takes longer, more time potentially to make like a blanket than it would be to make a pair of scrappy socks. So she's got it very nicely organized into categories, and it's super low key. And you know, you submit what you got, and there's no kind of hard deadlines, super complicated rules, and that's the life that I want to live with my making. So now let's get to the fun stuff. The final bucket, the final category of my goals, which is the actual making part. I don't have super firm, structured, I want to make these X number of projects this year. I tend not to do that only because I don't know like what's coming, you know? I don't want to lock myself in January into a bunch of projects and then, you know, a designer comes out with some amazing pattern 3 months from now and then I'm like, well, you know, I gotta finish these 12 things I've started. I don't want to get into that. I feel like that sucks the joy out of the whole process for me. So generally speaking, I have some making goals, and then I do have a couple specific projects that I will make, I do want to make this year. The first making goal is using what I have, using my stash. I have a ton of sock yarn, fingering weight yarn. I have a couple sweaters quantity, which do have some loose projects associated with them. And I just really want to use what I got. Like I bought this yarn, it's a beautiful yarn, and I don't want to be precious about it and, oh, I got to save this for the perfect thing. I just want to use it and I want to enjoy it. I bought it so that I could use it, not so I could look at it. So it's kind of in the back of my mind as I was going through these making goals is to first and foremost, use what you have. Use your stash, use your scraps, find projects that work for them. Now, as a part of that, that means I also need to be very sort of conscious about what I'm purchasing. I do have plans to go to Maryland Sheep and Wool, Yarn Centric, Frederick Fiber Fest, Maryland Alpaca Festival. I don't know, maybe Rhinebeck happens this year. Probably not, but you know, one can hope. And I want to also be very intentional if I buy things. Now, I do not include souvenir yarn in that. That's off the table. I will always buy souvenir yarn and it doesn't matter. So any sort of trips that we go on, the first thing I do is I Google the local area for yarn stores and see if I can get some souvenir yarn for socks. So another thing I want to do this year is finish just one, at least one, forever whip. So last year I posted a video and it was called exactly that, Forever Whips. And I'll leave a link to that below. But for me, a forever whip is something that I've started. It tends to be a bigger project, usually a blanket. And there's no sort of finite deadline for when it needs to be done by. It's just something I pick up and work on whenever the mood strikes. And I want to finish at least one of those projects. It's probably going to be the Crochet corner to corner blanket, but we'll see. As far as knitting goes, I also want to make more socks this year. I want to make more garments and I want to make less shawls. Now, I only worked on 2 last year and they were both the Stephen West mystery shawls. And I'm holding space for this year's mystery knit along with Stephen West. I said this past year for 2024 that I wasn't going to do it. And then I saw his little graphic and it got me sucked right in. I'm not going to make that mistake for 2025. We will see when the material comes out about like how many colors and what does the inspiration look like and the theme. We will see. I want to at least hold that space for that project though. I don't want to start anything big right before then, knowing that that's coming and knowing that I'm going to want to work on that for basically that month. For other crafts like spinning and weaving, I have some whips that I want to finish, like I may have mentioned before. I have some towels on my loom that are ready to come off and be hemmed, so I do want to finish that fairly shortly. And then I also have a couple spinning projects that I want to finish. They've been on the wheel for a long time though, and I may have to respin the singles just because they've been sitting for so long and may have lost a little bit of their energy. So future me will cross that bridge when it comes. But I definitely want to do more as far as spinning, more as far as fiber prep. Like I said, I want to take maybe some of the workshops that are offered at Maryland Sheep and Wool this year and really learn more about those areas and then, you know, demonstrate the skills. I want to do all the things. So I do want to make some more yarns intentionally for projects. That would be great. One of my dream projects would be to get some fleece and to process it and to card it and to spin it and then to knit a sweater. I don't know if that's ever going to happen in my lifetime, but it's definitely a stretch goal that I have for some point in the next 10 years at least. For weaving, I also want to get more into the idea of weaving for garments. Last year I took a class at Redstone Glen for sewing for hand weavers, and it really went into making sure that you're weaving the right type of cloth based on what you want to make, and then how to basically deal with the kind of special nature of hand-woven fabric as it relates to creating a garment like a shirt or a pair of pants. Definitely want to learn more about that. I want to get into trying to make at least something from my hand woven that requires cutting and sewing. Also for weaving, I want to make some rugs. So one of the reasons why I chose the loom that I have a shocked 8-shaft floor loom, and one of the reasons why I chose that one is because it's sturdy enough to make rugs. So I at least want to try to make a rug, possibly a rag rug. I have a couple pattern books from Tom Knisley who I learned how to weave from, and you know, that just kind of intrigues me to make a little rug, something that's very functional but also very beautiful. And then as far as quilting, it never ends, y'all. It's always something. So like I mentioned, I made 2 quilts this year. They were both baby quilts, and I got a book, and I'll insert a picture of it here. I didn't bring it upstairs, but basically this book is like a quilting workshop. You start with selecting fabrics, and then you make 100 different squares. And each square you build upon what you learned in the prior square. So it starts very simple and easy, and then you work your way up to more complicated squares. And I love that idea. That's, I think, gonna help me build my skill set with quilting, and making sure that I have, you know, a variety to kind of choose from. So like with anything else, you know, there's a whole rabbit hole, even within quilting. There's different types of quilting. There's piecing, and then there's applique, and then there's paper piecing and foundation paper piecing. And, you know, I feel like this book kind of covers all of those aspects in a very sort of diverse way of skill set. And I really feel like that would be a really great way for me to learn more about quilting as a craft and being able to execute on some of those skills. In terms of specific projects that I know I want to make, like these are gonna happen. These will be made. So first up is the Petal Party Crop by Samantha Gurin, and it's gonna be made out of this yarn from Kim Dye's Yarns. And it's a silk blend, merino, 80/20 merino silk blend. And the colorway is called Bunch of Zinnias. And I think the Petal Party Crop is going to look amazing in this yarn and in this colorway. And what I like about the Petal Party Crop, number one, I told this story in the Maryland Sheep and Wool Fiber Fest review, and I'll give you an abbreviated version here. There were 2 women wearing the same sweater, different colorways, and I literally had to stop them and ask what it was. I never do that, by the way. I'm not that person. I don't like doing that, but the sweater was so cute on them. The way they had it styled was so pretty, and I just had to know, and it was the sweater. So that inspired me the next day when I was at Maryland Sheep and Wool to pick up this yarn for it. So that project is going to happen, and it may happen sooner than later. I may actually cast this on in the next week or so. So aside from that, if you followed me for Vlogmas, you know I opened up these advents. So for the Frogget Yarn advent here, I 100%, more than 100% know that that is going to become the Trifle Wrap by Helen Stewart. I almost cast that on during Vlogmas, but I had too many projects going and I didn't need another one. I'm debating if I want to start that sooner than later, or if I want to wait until next season, next Vlogmas season, and then work on that while I'm opening whatever advents I end up getting for next year. I always feel like I want to work with the current advent, but I also don't know what it's going to look like until they're all opened and I can see the whole thing, and then I can make a decision about what project it needs to be. So this way I kind of get the best of both worlds. I'm scratching that itch of using some advent minis, and then at the same time getting to open advent minis for another project. And then as far as the Candyland themed advent that I got from Rising Tide Fiber Company, I'm still all over the place on what to make with that one. I'm still kind of leaning towards cowl. As you can see, I like a cowl. Infinity scarf style cowl. And there's a couple out there that have piqued my interest, but I'm still in the thinking phase on that one. So lastly, And this is coming off the high that was the End Times Cardigan. I kind of want to make another scrappy cardigan, and it definitely will not be modular. That took forever, y'all. Go check out that video. But I'm thinking maybe the garter marler, the cardigan version of it versus the pullover. I really want a cardigan. What's giving me pause is the fact that it's a circular yoke. I've only ever made one other circular yoke pattern before, and I know that the fit can be a little tricky on how much ease and where you stop that circular yoke so that you don't get the weird like armpit pulling. I don't know what else to call it. You knitters, you know what I mean. So I'm kind of on the fence about that one. But the most important part of a cardigan to me is the fact that it stays on. And I've seen a lot of feedback about cardigans that fall off the shoulders, and I don't want that. So if you have an idea, if you have a pattern suggestion on a cardigan that stays on, it fits, it stays on, and doesn't have any sort of like weird pulling situation in the armpit area, please leave a comment below and help me decide. I've got no less than 20 added in my Ravelry favorites, and I just maybe need some help deciding which one that should be. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. That's everything I made last year across all my different crafting hobbies. This is what I want to make this year across all those same crafting hobbies. Maybe I learned something new this year. Maybe I pick up underwater basket weaving. That's a joke. I'm not doing that. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, helping me get to my 1,000 subscriber goal at some point this year. That would be amazing. And I really hope that we can continue to contribute and build this community together. So that's all I have for you today. I will be back in a week or two, probably 2, with more making fun. I should have some finished objects by then. I'm very close on my shift cowl, so that'll be coming soon. Until next time, happy making.